So welcome everyone. Thank you for sparing your precious time for this topic. I assume and I hope we all are. I request you all to put yourself on mute if that's possible. So as I was mentioning, thank you so much. It's glad to see we have so many people passionate about this topic. And I hope we are able to quench some of your curiosity and, reignite or even ignite it further, your passion about the circular disruption series. So we'll begin with an introduction. My colleague Manuel, he will provide an introduction, and thereafter I'll pick up the subject by talking about the triple challenges that we are facing and talk about a bit about the value hill in the linear economy versus value hill in a circular economy. We will talk about the challenges that are presented to businesses when we talk about the circular economy. And given these challenges, the question will be, why are businesses still interested to take on these challenges? And we'll follow it up with a case study to see, hey, how has a company taken these challenges and how they are succeeding? And there'll be further readings for you to see other cases as well. With that, let me hand over to my colleague Manuel.
Hello, welcome to the Circular Disruption series. Why we are doing this, we are looking to power the community level and level up the potential of the circular economy and sustainability. And we wanted to ask the question that what is the circular economy, and during this series, how to transform the current models and how to implement and make an impact in my business, and how we can help of our business and our local communities. We are a group of Stanford Lead students that we are part of the Impact Valley group, and we started this series. We have a different backgrounds, different different experience to share to the community. The funding partners are Juana, Juanita, Sacho, Harpreet, myself, with advisors of Federico, Rosemary, and Julie. And how we wanted to share this knowledge, we wanted to make these interactive sessions where you can learn about this the different experience and the different knowledge in circular economy, share the expertise of the group, and also we invite some experts of the field, and we want to engage the community to be part of this movement of circular economy. To begin the transition to our linear economy to our circular economy requires multidisciplines to develop of the engage of the community and the participation of everyone, and to have the sustainable business and the cyber regulatory solutions to our business. We started a series of discussions and a series of speakers. We started with Juanita Piet with Greater Good Now 1 and 2. And today we are going to talk about circular business models with Harpreet. Let me introduce him. We have another series of speakers. Harpreet is a leader, have more than 50 years of experience in financial asset management domain. He's currently working with NN Investment Partners. It's a subsidiary of Goldman Sachs. He's helping our organizations to implement the European Sustainable Finance regulations. He's working also as a course facilitator since 2020 in the Stanford community. We know Harpreet in the different courses that he will be our course facilitator, and he graduated for Stanford Lead in 2020. Let's hear Harpreet an experience about the Circular's business model.
Thank you so much, Manuel. Before I begin, I've just request again to please keep your mics on mute. That helps the flow as well. Thank you so much. So thanks again, Manuel. So today, before we launch into the business models, I would like to talk about the triple challenge that we are facing. And to reach there, I have a small Mentimeter quiz. And what I want you to do is, before you answer this question or go there, I want you to close your eyes and just imagine, as an optimist, that in 2050 we have this beautiful, sustainable world that we are all, looking forward to. And as you close your eyes, just imagine the world around you, and then just in the Mentimeter, if you go there, put in your answers. What do you visualize? How do you see the world in 2050? So let me know if you can scan the QR code or you can use the Mentimeter quiz code.
Can we share, Harpreet, the link in the chat before we close the eyes?
Sure, I can do that as well.
Thank you.
Oh, wait. Okay. Yeah, I put the link in the chat as well. Okay, I see some answers already coming in. Peaceful, green, big community. Oh, nice. Green with many trees, self-sustaining, a real decentralized and democratic world. Wow. Equilibrium, net delta for every cycle being 0, interconnected, brighter. Wow. Reasonable. I love this, whoever wrote happy. Nice. No more hunger. Wow. Nice. Let me give 30 more seconds to see if we have more answers. Still struggling to agree on energy. Desalination widespread, 50% of the world energy is green. Okay, nice. Fair and harmony with environment. My earth smiles, love that. Gives me a big smile as well. Wow. Nice. Okay, what I'm going to do is, I love these replies. It's giving me a big smile as well. So let me go back to my presentation again. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let me move forward to the next slide. And what I want to highlight over here is, and you can see that from your answers as well, we all have different views of what sustainability is. Now, the three main challenges that I'm going to talk about, they are not isolated and siloed. They all are interrelated. The foremost challenge, as we all know, is the climate challenge. And for the climate challenge, almost the entire world has agreed for the requirements of the Paris Agreement of 2015, which aims to limit the global warming to a maximum of 2 degrees. Although the endeavor will be there to bring it as close as possible to 1.5 degrees. Now, what that means is that each country, each society as well, then has to limit the greenhouse gas emissions or has to bring it down to net zero by 2050. Now, this is a task by itself. Now, the second challenge is the decarbonization of our energy chain. As I mentioned, these are interlinked. They are not existing in silo, but they deserve their own space because decarbonization of energy chain requires a lot more efforts and a lot more infrastructure to be put in place. Now, when I close my eyes and I talk about 2050, or when I try to explain to my son who's 9 years old, it's more about, hey, you'll see a lot more electric cars, you'll see a lot more wind turbines, you'll see a lot more solar panels, etc., so that you get renewable energy. We are still talking of a lot more material. And that is where the importance of circularity comes in, as has been highlighted by Juanita in her previous 2 presentations. So circularity is about materials. How can we transition from a make, take, waste economy to an economy where we can close these material loops? Now, this closing of material loops is, you can think of it in 3 steps as well. In the literature, you will find the use of words like narrowing the loop, slowing the loop, and closing the loop. So just a quick reminder on what these are. So narrowing the loops mean we need to be much more resource efficient. We need to be more efficient in producing the materials, the objects that we want with lesser material or lesser energy. That's about, we narrow the loop. The second part is about the loops, which means, can we extend the useful life of a product to a lot more than what we currently do? That's about slowing the loops. And closing the loop is, bringing it back, the materials back there. Now, it is possible that some of these 2 objectives, narrowing, for example, narrowing the loop and slowing the loop, may seem contradictory in some cases. So for example, to slow the loop, you want the object to be durable.
Yeah.
And durability may require more material.
Yeah.
So they seem at conflict, but if you look at the life cycle assessment, at that point, you have to look at the entire life cycle, as many people call, from cradle to cradle. That is what is more important. Now, going forward, I'm not going to spend much time on a circular economy, purely because that has been taken care in the previous 2 talks by Juanita. My focus will start moving more and more towards the businesses because the economy comprises of this business. So the question will be, hey, what do they have to do to reach there? Now, there's a concept called the value hill, and this will not come as a surprise to most of you, that in the current model, we extract the materials from Earth, we send them for manufacturing, we obviously take the ore, we bring it into a form that can be used in manufacturing, and these components are then assembled, sent to the retail, and used by the user. After the use, these are basically thrown away. in various forms. It could be landfills, as is the case in, I do not know if somebody, Abhinav is here, but he has talked about, he's trying to come up with a solution on how to prevent uniforms from entering into landfills, or they're burnt, or they're just thrown away in the ocean. Now, well, we've talked a lot about the harmful effects of these. So the question is, okay, we all say this is harmful. So how does this value chain look like when you're running a circular business, for example? Now here it is very similar in the first part, but then something changes and happens in the use part and what we call the downhill as the value recovery part. Now, if you see here, circular businesses need to think about, hey, how do we retain the value for as long as possible for the user? Now, I'll just give us a few seconds just to take a pause and think, hey, if you want the user to have the value for as long as possible, what does it do to the model that most businesses have today, where once they sell the product, it's the end of the transaction. And to be more profitable, you need to have more such transactions. So what is the challenge that is presented when I have a durable product? Now, a durable product could be something that we say, okay, it is durable because of its make, or it could also be made durable because it can be repaired easily. It has a modular design that allows for its repairability and maintenance for a longer period of time. Once the product that was intended for its use has lost the value for that intended use, can we reuse that product? One sec. Can we reuse that product or redistribute it so that we can have more optimum usage of that product? Other options include repurposing or refurbishing the material, or you can remanufacture it. And if nothing can be done, then can we bring it back in recycling? So taking it back towards the manufacturing. Now, important thing over here is that when we talk about remanufacturing, that means the manufacturing capabilities should be such that it can use not only the virgin product or virgin material, but also the recycled material. So these are some of the aspects that you need to take care of. Now, before I move further, I would just like take a very quick quiz, and you can just put it on chat. What do you think today, or let's say roughly today, what percentage of material is going back, so from recycling back into manufacturing? Rough ideas. Or what, to think it the other way around, what is the circularity gap that we have today? Just put your guesses on the chat, just to get a sense of what we are talking about here. Okay, circularity gap of 90%, 10%, 3%, 5%, less than 10%. 8.6%. I love this, Elena. This is actually true. This is actually true. So the circularity gap has increased over the last 2 to 3 years. It started with about 9%. It has come down to 8.6%. So Elena, I assume you are reading this circularity gap report from Circular Economy, right?
Right, yes.
Brilliant, brilliant. So you can imagine the scale of challenge we have. So roughly, 8.6 to be very precise, as per the circularity gap report, that is the amount that is coming back into the system. Rest is not coming back into the system. Now, here I would like to highlight, uh, for those of you who have read the circularity gap report, it is a bit exaggerated to drive home a point. But what is important to remember is that imagine the homes that we build. The homes that we build, they have materials in them, but these materials, they are locked in your home for many years. So we cannot expect that this recycle will be 100% because there's a lock-in of material for many years. So we have to take this with a pinch of salt that, okay, this 9% talks about the entire input material and only looks at what came back into the system and not what should have come back into the system because something is locked in already. But it does drive an important point home for many stakeholders. Moving forward, now, we all know, okay, this is what we have to achieve as businesses. We need to start thinking of, repair, maintenance, reuse, etc., etc. So let's see what are the current challenges in achieving this. Now, here again, I would like you to go to Mentimeter and just provide your input on what you think are the challenges, and then we can take this discussion forward. What I will do is, you already have it. Oh, see, let me go back to Mentimeter and this one. I assume you all can reach here to the challenges in implementing circular strategies. Yes. Cost, intent, okay. Feasibility, a business model. Indeed. Technology, people don't know where to start. I think that's a good one. Yes. Short-term vision, access to waste material, material manufacturing capability. Yeah. Cost. Yeah. Organization. Will, indeed. Return of materials and product. Scared to make changes. People don't know how to make circular strategies profitable. Indeed. Narratives that don't matter to people. Return on investment. Afraid of the unknown. Power, politics. Oh, wow. Okay, these are brilliant answers. Thank you so much. Lack of good regulations. Oh, wow. I just want to know from where is this person writing this from? Lack of good regulations.
You don't want to know, Harpreet.
No. Because I think for people who are in Europe, they actually think the other way around, that there are too many regulations. And I do know Americas are catching up as well. So nice, nice. Okay, let me then move back to my presentation. So what I would like to talk about here is, so I think I would like to give you two salient challenges in an abstract form, which kind of encapsulate a lot of the answers that are being spoken about. Now, the two challenges that they're more salient than others, that doesn't mean they're not other challenges, and they're kind of abstracted as well. One is this reverse logistics systems, and the second is about network thinking for multiple value creation streams. Let me talk a bit about this. The first one is reverse logistic systems. Now, over many decades now, if you look at all the businesses, they have kind of, I would not say perfected the art, but a lot of money and effort has been spent in the value addition. If you remember the value hill I mentioned, the left-hand side of it, which is extraction, manufacturing, assembly, retail, and use. The other side of the hill, the value hill, that represents your reverse logistics systems. Now, these reverse logistics systems have a few characteristics that make it very difficult. And that is the reason why you see businesses have so far not attempted at scale to come or to succeed in this challenge. So if you think about it, what are the key challenges in a reverse logistics system? They are about unpredictability and lack of coordination. Let me elaborate that a bit more. When I say unpredictability, I mean unpredictability in terms of at what time will the customer or the client give back the material to me? We don't know the time. It's always good to see in terms of the forward logistics, the just in time, think of all those things. We have perfected that art. We know at what point the thing will be delivered. But on the reverse side, we do not know that. So that's number one. Two, we don't even know the place where this thing can be returned. Now, one can think of, hey, maybe this can be returned to my retail shop. But then you have to talk about at a global scale, is that even possible? The place where this thing can be returned. And last but not the least, I would say even the most important, the condition in which something will be returned. So there are predictability along all these three dimensions, which are not there in the forward logistics systems. Or if they were there, they have been perfected by now. So these are some very, very hard challenges to solve. And how do you bring about this coordination? And that kind of leads me to the second one. Now, in the forward logistics systems, there are a lot of players in the value chain, but it's not like a very distributed value chain. You go to your customer, there's a value exchange, typically in form of a product versus or a service versus cash, and that's the end of it. In circular value chains, you will see a lot more participants. And the values that will be, there's not one value that will be created, there'll be multiple values that are created across the lifetime by multiple players. Now, if somebody says to you that, hey, my business is circular, that's impossible. It is impossible to have a circular business. It's always a network which will be circular. No one business can ever be circular. So, as people from the corporate side will resonate with this thought that we are always told to kind of limit the degrees of freedom, to limit the number of, in which things can go wrong. So we try to limit the number of people involved in our value chain in that sense. But here we have to have a network, which is creating this different streams of values. So that kind of goes against the grain with which the businesses have flourished so far. So these are the two salient challenges. For others who are interested to know more, I put something for further reading. Please go through this, and they are very, very interesting. But the key point I want to drive over here is that it is not that these challenges, that businesses are not doing it just because they want to be bad corporate citizens. These are very hard challenges. Some of them have been able to do it successfully, but still not at scale yet. Now, one can ask, and actually I did this experiment as well. So I actually talked about this. So while I was presenting or I was practicing this presentation, I just picked up a stranger on the road, had a chit chat with him, and I was telling him about the circular business models. So his obvious question was, so why should I even do it? Like, why should I even take this challenge? And we should, as business leaders, we should also ask this question, hey, why should we even do it? And the answers to that are as follows. A lot of clients are demanding sustainability. Now, we might have various definitions of sustainability, but let's say in broader sense, let's assume these clients know what they're talking about. So when they're demanding it, so businesses, they have to kind of respond to that. So there is indeed client demand. Now, okay, there's client demand, fine. More importantly, there is regulatory demand. And what do I mean by regulatory demand? Now, this regulatory demand is coming from multiple dimensions. One is, I can speak especially about Europe because that's some place which I know a bit. So I think starting this year on, I think starting next year, all companies of a decently good size will have to report because of a regulation called CSRD, Corporate Sustainability Disclosure Regulation. They will have to disclose their performance on sustainability angle. And circularity is one of them. For those of you who are interested, it's an open document. Please read this CSRD regulation and you will see the type of questions that the regulators are asking. It's still in a draft version yet, but you get a sense of what they're asking. So that is part A. So it will become very clear to everybody in the world, hey, how circular or sustainable you are as a company. Number two, in Europe and in US, there is a legislation called right to repair, which implies that businesses cannot simply have products which are not no longer repairable. They have to be made, they have to come out with their user manuals and make sure that they can be repaired. Now, this has been ingrained in the legislation now. So this is kind of pushing the businesses towards designing products which are repairable and more modular by design. Another regulation that is kind of impacting the businesses is what we call as extended liability. So extended producer liability. So producers cannot simply say, hey, the moment I give the product to the consumer, it's no longer my liability. That ain't happening. So they have to take ownership till the end. So that's another regulatory demand. There's the fourth one as well, which I'll talk about a bit later because that requires a section of its own. Now, moving forward in this chain, the other demand that is coming is from investors. So the regulators are asking the investors to say, hey, when you're investing your money, disclose it to the entire world, how green was your investment. Now, investors have started to ask companies to become more and more greener. And greener is, you can consider it as synonymous to circularity. Although I have to say, in my line of business, we have a lot of assets which are called sustainable. But at this point in time, and I'm pretty sure Juanita, who represents the International Development Finance Corporation, I think, or International Development Bank, I think that's right. Right now, when people talk about green and sustainability, they typically talk of scope 1 and scope 2, which is what is your carbon emission, direct or indirect. Right now, there is not much public attention on the usage, and which then comes into circularity. Right now, that's not there, but I expect in the coming couple of years that should change as a lot more people start to understand this concept of sustainability and green investments. And also, another reason it makes business sense. Now, why does it make business sense? And that is also linked to my another topic, which I'll just mention quickly, and then I'll come back to here. And that is the topic of material criticality. Now, I know US does it, and I know European Union does it, and I know many other countries do it. But for here, I've just shown what is done by Europe. So every 3 years, Europe looks at, hey, what is the raw materials that are used in Europe, and which of these raw materials are critical to us? So this, I've taken a report from 2020. The next report is expected to be published in 2023 period. Now, if you look at this, look at some of the dependencies that they have. So on the rare earth materials, more than 98% Europe is reliant on China. By the way, it's not only Europe, I'm pretty sure it's US as well. But look at this. So if we keep consuming virgin materials, as they're called, or the primary materials, there's such a large or huge material criticality. Forget about everything else in the world about pollution and this and that. Just look at the geopolitical powers that countries can exercise when they do this. Now, how do businesses make their value chains sustainable? If they can start having these closed loops, that makes their value chains more resilient. Not only that, it lowers down the cost because it's more efficient. And I think this topic has come up so many times. Many people argue that sustainability will lead to increased cost for the customers purely because of, hey, we are doing something green, added cost. But I would, at least in my opinion, is that is not going to happen because business will become efficient, but because also from business's point of view, you will have what is called as a product service system. So businesses will no longer be only selling you products, they'll be selling you services. And I think many of us are aware of these platforms which start offering these services, many products as services. So that is what makes business interested in trying to solve the circularity challenge or the gaps that we identified earlier. I'm just looking how we are doing on time. I think we are fine. Before we go to a case study, let me see, I can give 3-4 minutes to any questions or any remarks so far. I hate doing a monologue. Yes, Juanita, please go ahead.
I really love this graph about the material criticality. I recall that when the war between Ukraine and Russia started, people realized that I think Ukraine is one of the major producer of one key material, and some companies were just saying, oh, that they were starting to try to basically recycle and refurb that metal so that they would not have to rely too much on the additional supply. So that's really interesting to see with this example, we can see a critical way to show how it actually makes business sense, right?
You're absolutely right there, Hunita. In fact, this report from 2020 did not foresee the war, but I'm pretty sure the 2023 report is going to look at that report as well, the impact of war as well. So thanks for bringing it in. Any other question, remark?
Amit
Okay.
made a comment on the chat. Amit Saxena.
Amit, please go ahead.
So I'm not in a location where I can talk, but I think I mentioned my point. I'm sorry, cannot talk right now.
No, let's see. So you mentioned with examples of carbon cycle, water cycle, it is very easy to imagine that nature works in a closed loop. True, we must as well, otherwise equilibrium keeps shifting. Fair point, fair point. What I did not mention, so European Union has targets for everything. So they have a target to reduce the use of virgin material by about 50% by 2030. And guess what? They have a target to reduce the use of virgin material by 100% by 2050. The reason I'm having a smile on my face is because I remember I read a comment which said lack of regulation. Well, here you go, you have more regulation that you need to reduce by 100% the use of virgin material. It's a nice pipe dream to have, but I think the reason I think it's not possible is because unless we assume that the world growth is not going to be there, there's not going to be product innovations. There will always be a need for virgin materials. Especially remember, a lot of the value in the materials is locked in for many years before it can come back to this closing the loop cycle. Okay. Yes, sure, Amit. We will be sharing the link to my presentation and all the references that are there. So thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify, I mean, there is a link when we are putting all videos and presentations. So normally you are getting them via email, hello@circulardisruption.com. If you don't have it yet, just send me a message and we will share it. I will also share it in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you. So let me move on. So if you look at the case study, what I did over here is, these are some, let's say, planning tools that you can, if you think of a business model, you divide that into your value proposition, your value creation and delivery, and the value capture. Then you think along these additional dimensions to see, hey, how can you make your businesses more circular? I would not spend too much time on this today for simple reason. I want it to be much more tangible. But when you receive these presentations, please feel free to look at it. But once you start looking at it, you say, yeah, I understand this now. So let me take an example of Nespresso. Now, we all know Nespresso. What they do is they make these coffee pods or coffee. Now, I try to keep it a bit interactive to see if we can try to answer these questions. So, and by the way, it is possible that for some of these, they might be, hey, Nespresso doesn't do anything. That's also possible. So let's just focus on narrowing the loop. Just to remind all of you, what is meant by narrowing the loop, it means, can we have resource efficiency? Can we use lesser material to achieve the same functional performance? Now, please feel free to write some comments on the chat message to see, hey, do these Nespresso pods, do they narrow the loop in any way? So to make it even more tangible, imagine you have to drink a cup of coffee. So would Nespresso reduce the amount of coffee that is needed to make that cup of coffee? Or no, or it's not applicable to Nespresso? And you can also think of, by the way, the Nespresso machine. So this one same. Not sure Nespresso narrows the loop. They use more and more capsules. Fair point. Fair point. Anybody else? Let's hear from somebody who has not spoken before. Okay, I see radio silence. I think they're slow. Oh, Sandeep. Yes. Sandeep, can you elaborate a bit? Why do you think they're slow? Oh, no, slow. Okay, you jumped the question, Sandeep.
Oh,
the
sorry.
question is, do they narrow the loop?
Yeah, my bad, my bad. No, so I agree with what Unita said. I don't think it'll narrow the loop. Partly because I think, with the patch, it's while the capsule is small, I think the water usage per each cup of coffee and also the material that is used, etc. I think it probably goes in the other direction, but just a guess.
Sure. So let me give you something which when I first read about it, it was a bit counterintuitive. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say that in my opinion, I think they do narrow the loop because I think it's almost, if you look at a capsule and the amount of coffee per capsule or the amount of water used per mug of coffee, for example, it almost standardizes it versus if you look at 100 people just making their own cup of coffee is taking sort of 1 teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of coffee and then adding whatever amount they're adding. There's no standardization. Whereas if you were to ask all these 100 people to use Nespresso, the actual amount of coffee plucked from the plant possibly is standardized and therefore reduces the overall impact. So that's sort of what my head goes to.
That is absolutely right. And, for me, it was initially difficult to understand why. Till the time, disclaimer, my wife owns a restaurant and sometimes she calls me to help her. I know nothing about restaurants, but the only thing I can do is I can tap beer and I can make coffee or espresso. Some of our guests ask me for this Irish coffee and then this coffee with foam with a hint of mint, blah, blah, blah. I just can't do that. So, so that's the only thing which I can recall now. So if you go to a restaurant, typically if you look at how they make these coffees, they will have these coffee beans. They grind them. After grinding them, it comes into this apparatus and they put something on top of it. And then they, kind of brush off the excess coffee. Now, you don't do that when you're making through these capsules, number one. So the wastage of coffee is much, much lower because it is precise, exactly the same amount of coffee is there in every cup of coffee. That's number one. Number two, the Nespresso machines do what is called as flash heating. So they don't need to boil the entire container of water just to produce 1 cup of coffee. So that also kind of narrows the loop. Number three, that happens more at the production stage, that because they're doing it at scale and in a very precise manner, they are able to kind of narrow the loop or use the resources more efficiently than you would use for your filter coffee or other ways of making coffee. So that is a way to make, they kind of narrow the loop. Now, for some of you who are more observant, you would say, Harpreet, but what if we started using renewable energy? Then the energy is out of the equation because it's sustainable. Indeed, that is the case. So you have to take this with a pinch of salt that, hey, if the person is really sustainable, he'll make sure he doesn't brush off the excess coffee, etc. So the short answer is, for average person, it does narrow the loop of coffee usage and electricity usage and water usage. That's part A. Now, narrowing the loop also is not the most challenging in terms of achieving circularity. Companies have done that for many years now. So that's kind of a challenge which we all know. Yes, Sandeep, so you're right. We need to consider the carbon footprint based on electricity. And that's why I mentioned renewable energy can kind of change this whole equation. Next question is, how do they slow the loop? I know Sandeep, and let's hear from Sandeep. Juanita, I've heard from you before, so I want to hear from somebody I've not heard before. Sandeep, you also mentioned it slows the loop. Can you elaborate that, please?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm kind of where Kirsten is. I think she made a very good comment there, and so that's where I was thinking that, I think even if you use renewable, for example, with Nespresso, there is that upfront investment which needs to be included in the levelized cost, and I don't know whether that actually results in a net decrease or a net increase. So I feel like so that was my rationale for thinking that, I thought it does not narrow the loops. I was wrong on one. I thought it actually slows the loop. Not quite close it, but yeah.
So I think Kirsten brings in a very important point. I see I have to also keep a tab on time. So Nick, Nirvik, your quick question is, can joint ventures between companies be established to create a closed loop? Brilliant question. I'll answer that in a minute. Let me first go to slowing the loop very quickly. I don't want to dig too much into this point on what Kristen is mentioning. So there's something called life cycle assessment. So the question I will pose to you will be as follows. You have a fridge or a washing machine or any electrical appliance that was, let's say, built in 70s. It is functioning very well, but it's consuming a lot more electricity. So should we, from sustainability point of view, change that appliance and get the latest and the greatest in terms of sustainability appliance in our home. Because you're right, hey, to produce that new appliance is also going to cost me energy and has a carbon footprint. So should I just remove something that's already working? There's no simple answer to it. You have to conduct what is called a life cycle assessment. So it's a topic in itself. I just don't have enough time to talk about it today. But it's a great question, Kirsten. So thanks for bringing that point.
Just one comment, Harpreet. What Nespresso is trying to do that is not working really well because their machines doesn't last forever. I experienced that. Is that they are trying to create programs when people recycle, repair, and trying to slow this loop on having the people using long time. This is this cycle that you are explaining, just to make it simple. And they are trying to promote the use of new pieces to replace instead of buying a new one, because normally the people, they cap break and they just go running to buy a new one. So it's still really early in the process, and they are also trying to have the people reselling their old machines to get a new one, or recover the old ones to refurnish them and sell it again. So like this, they want to slow the loop of the producing and trying to simplify this cycle.
You're absolutely right there, Juana. I think for the last couple of years, they've started to lease their coffee making machine.
Yeah, exactly.
So product as a service, that concept slows the loop. For the sake of time, let me move to the next one, closing the loop. Now, we all know that, you can take your used coffee capsules back to Nespresso's shops for it to be recycled, and that is a way to close the loop. I would have loved to hear some numbers, but what I can already spill the beans now, the coffee beans. At this point in time, or about a yearish ago, Nespresso could only recover 30%, not more. You have to understand some of the key things over here. Remember, so how did they solve the problem of uncertainty in the place? Remember, we talked about this reverse logistic. So the way they solved this challenge was, okay, the way they solved this problem was they said, hey, uncertainty of place does not exist because this coffee will come to my retail shop, and from there I can take it. They don't have to worry about the condition of the returned product because it's going to be aluminum. Now, many of these products are also plastic. So that's one thing they have to be very careful of, that they don't mix plastic with aluminum. So that's the second challenge. Timing wise, they don't care actually. Now, for those of you who are living in Switzerland, I think we have Valerie from Switzerland. They also solved the problem because not many people go to the retail shop. They made use of Swiss Post to start collecting these used pods. This takes me back to the point which I mentioned. Hey, it's going to be multiple players in this value chain. Rushing forward towards, there was this point, can joint ventures between companies be established to close the loop? Now, this is a very tricky question to answer. So by the way, for Nespresso has a joint venture with Dow Edwards. So what they're saying is, you can put in Dow Edwards or Nespresso coffee pods, and they've created a company that will collect it from you. It's there in UK. But something to take back is, many a times we say sustainability is a strategic advantage. Now, if all companies are able to recycle it, it is good for planet Earth. But for businesses, it doesn't create a strategic advantage. So yes, you can create a joint venture, but then if the joint venture does not offer a strategic advantage, I would argue maybe the businesses won't do that, because Nespresso spent so much money in creating this reverse logistic systems. Why would they do it? So that's something to be borne in mind. And for those of you who have been observant, I've tried to desist from making any argument which is based on ethics or values, because those are nice, but not from the business context. So that's something to be kept in mind. For those of you interested, please read Ellen MacArthur's Foundation. There's so many more examples that you can look at. So please have a look for drawing more inspiration and for looking at businesses which are closer to your business. And with that, I would hand it back to my colleague Manuel.
Any question left? Maybe we have 2 minutes before we close the topic.
Thank you. Any questions or remarks?
Excellent explanation, Harpreet. Thank you so much for, I didn't know about this at all. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I second that. Thank you for sharing. This was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have his hand, sorry, if I don't pronounce well. We have a question.
Sure.
It's Hisham. Thank you very much. My question is about greenwashing. There is a lot of discussion about claiming to support circular economy, where in reality, they're not. And it is the utilization of an honorary objective of supporting Mother Nature. And in reality, the companies are using it to support its sale. Can you shed some lights on that, please? Thank you.
Sure. So Hisham, you're absolutely right. We are exposed to this greenwashing. Everybody wants to climb the bandwagon of sustainability. That's absolutely true. However, I would like to draw your attention to what I mentioned earlier. If a business claims they're circular, that is impossible. No business can be circular by itself. The entire chain has to be present to become circular. So think of all the repair shops that have to be put in place. A company can maybe have a repair, but you need the entire ecosystem around it. So to green, another thing important is making a product green is product innovation. It's not business model innovation. Circularity will require business model innovation to incorporate all the factors that we talked about in the value hill. So to do greenwashing in circularity will be much difficult than doing greenwashing in products, because in products, you can make a claim and you can probably hide it. And we have seen so many cases, Volkswagen, for example, organic products, they have been greenwashing. In fact, even in the field of finance where I work in, there have been many inquiries. For those of you who know this, Deutsche Asset Management, they are having serious investigations going against them for greenwashing. Goldman Sachs, they've also been, 2 of their funds are also being investigated. Nothing has come out yet, but indeed it's a big problem. But on circular business models, I think the scope of greenwashing is limited because it does not involve just one company, but the entire value chain. So those are my 2 cents, Hisham. I don't know what you think of it.
Thank you. That should. I asked for shedding some lights, and you did. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
I just want to add something funny. Yesterday I was watching a movie on the 50s, in the 50s. And if you remember this series about advertising, everyone smokes because we're just really fancy and it was really casual. And I was thinking that of this parallel between greenwashing and cigarettes long time ago. Actually, it was good for your health to smoke. So I think humanity is humanity, and we are repeating the cycle because this is a bit hit for advertising and to keep relevant at this moment. Fortunately, it's not smoking, it's sustainability, but let's see how this goes for the future. Thank you. Do you want to take one more question?
Sure, I have time. Binay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Harpreet. In fact, my video is not good, so I'll be talking in the dark. But just a small closing add-on. we have been talking of high costs in terms of things that are organic or sustainable. So that high horse, I think we all need to be able to get off, because the moment we create something as niche, that it's expensive because it is organic, we are defeating the very purpose. So the bigger the scale, the more common it is, the more successful it will be. So simplification is perhaps the key. Degrowth is perhaps the key. So be complex where you need to be, but be simple where you don't need to be complex. I think that is.
You're absolutely right there, Binay. I think if you again think from business point of view, they always look at what is called as a willingness to pay. There'll always be certain section of the society who will have a higher willingness to pay for organic, even if it is for next 10 years, for example. So they want to extract as much money as possible from them before it is mainstreamed. So it's a common business strategy that businesses have applied, will apply, and are applying. So I agree with you, but businesses will continue to apply such strategies where willingness to pay is higher.
Thank you, Harpreet. And thank you for the great session. Thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, back to you, Juana or Manuel, if you're there.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Harper, for this great presentation. We wanted you to invite for the next presentation of the series of presentation about system thinking in circularity. It will be 14 July. Juana Catalina will be the speaker. You know Juana from the CF on the Stanford Lead. You can join the events here. I shared the link in the chat. And you can also receive the invitation via Workplace and LinkedIn. And thank you for the part of this session. And thank you, Harper.